It has been a while since we've given 3 ups and 3 downs here on 3 Up, 3 Down. We've had a ton of MLB offseason moves. It's time for me to give my opinion and give 3 ups and 3 downs on the MLB offseason moves. Let's go. My first up has to be to Cleveland Guardians for filling their power need at first base. It's a 2-year, potentially $16.5 million per year for Josh Bell. The second year is a mutual option, so it's going to be very interesting to see how Josh Bell fits in Cleveland. We have seen Josh Bell in the past put up 2 very good first halves, but we've never really seen the switch hitter put together a full season of true production. I think he's going to do very well in Cleveland. He's going to look very good hitting behind Jose Ramirez. And what an advantage that is going to be for the Guardians to be able to bat Ramirez and Bell 1, 2, 3, 4, wherever they decide to put them, and have 2 switch hitters back to back in that lineup. I really like what Cleveland is doing here. It's not a long term commitment. And given the money that's gone out for some of these other players and the lengths and contracts, I think Cleveland has done very well here. They've managed their money well. They have a lot of really good young talent. You could see Stephen Kwan hitting in front of these 2 guys, giving them a lot of RBI opportunities. You add in Ahmed Rosario and his ability to hit the ball and get on base. Some of the very talented youngsters that are still coming through the Cleveland system. I think they need some more help, potentially at catcher to give a little depth there. Although Mike Zunino was a nice little pickup there, we'll see if he can get back to what he was or if he's just going to be kind of an automatic out guy, but a very good defensive catcher. We know in Cleveland it all starts and ends with pitching, and we have Jose Ramirez now backed by Josh Bell. I think this move, given the fact it could be only 1, maybe 2 years, if Bell can put together the type of season that he has in the past, especially the first part of the year, this is a very, very good move for the Guardians. It gets an up from me. Our first down for the MLB offseason has to be the Minnesota Twins. It's not so much that I don't like them taking a risk and giving Joey Gallo a chance, a 1-year, $11 million deal. In fact, there's not going to be any shifting this year. Maybe Gallo can really produce this year. But what I really don't like about this move is the fact that the Twins haven't addressed some of their other needs. Did they really need an outfielder that's a question mark? They've got enough outfielders that are question marks. Byron Buxton is always hurt. Alex Kirilloff hasn't performed in the majors. Trevor Larnach hasn't improved in the majors. Nick Gordon has been a very good player, but where does he fit? He might actually fit more in the infield because they haven't addressed the shortstop position. Carlos Correa, by all accounts, is not coming back. So who's their shortstop going to be? Nick Gordon? Kyle Farmer? If those are the players that are putting out there for the Twins, this deal does not make any sense. They had a player like this last year in Gary Sanchez, and they've let him walk. They have no interest in re-signing Gary Sanchez. So I don't know what the big idea is in bringing in Gallo. Maybe he gets lucky, maybe he can get hot, but until Gallo can consistently put the bat on the ball, this move just does not make any sense. And if the Twins end up trading Max Kepler because of this move, I think it makes even less sense. I would much rather have Max Kepler than Joey Gallo. Even on an $11 million contract, I'm Kepler all day over Gallo. This move just does not work for me. We'll see what Gallo can produce, but he didn't produce in New York. He didn't produce to the Dodgers. He hasn't produced since Texas. And if he's not going to adapt his swing at all, then he's not going to be a major league player for much longer. So for the Minnesota Twins, this may be a risk, but for me, it's a risk that's not worth it. It's a down for the Minnesota Twins. Our second up for this major league offseason has to go to the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim to bring in 4 players that are going to give them an opportunity to try and make a playoff push this year. Gio Urshela, Tyler Anderson on a free agent deal, 3-year, $39 million. Hunter Renfroe through trade, and Brandon Drury on another free agent deal, 2-year, $17 million. I think this really, really improves the Angels lineup. When you can start to throw in Trout and Ohtani, Walsh, Stassi, this is a good hitting Angels team. And whatever they can get from Anthony Rendon is going to be a bonus. There is a lot of nice pieces on this Angels team. Can they compete for a playoff spot? Can they stay healthy enough to compete for a playoff spot? Will be interesting. But I think they're really going to hit left-handed pitching well. Renfroe and Drury in particular hit left-handed pitching very well. Mike Trout and Ohtani hit everything well. So those are 2 key offensive pieces there to add and lengthen that lineup. You throw in Taylor Ward, maybe he can give you a little bit more what he gave at the start of the last season. Very, very good team here. I think it balances them out. I think it improves the defense a little bit as well. And Drury, if Rendon is healthy, and Renfroe in the outfield. Renfroe is not really a run it down type of guy, but he has that big arm from the outfield, scares a lot of teams, get a lot of outfield assists. I think it fits very well there alongside Mike Trout. The question is always going to be with the Angels, do they have enough pitching? Tyler Anderson is going to regress. There's no question about this. He's not going to put up the numbers he did in LA. With 3 year, $39 million, that's not a bad contract to give out to Tyler Anderson. If he regresses a little bit, fine. But unless he falls apart, this is still going to be a very workable contract. Anderson can give you quality innings. He's always done that. Soft throwing lefty, but he really understands his slider now. I think it's really going to fit well for the Angels. Do they have enough to make a playoff push? I don't think so, but I really like to see that they've put together a team that can at least challenge for a playoff spot and maybe give the opportunity to re-sign Shohei Ohtani. If not, if they're not within 2-3 games by the All-Star break, then it's time to cut bait. You've got to trade Ohtani and get whatever you can for him at the deadline. But this is the last hurrah. I think they've done a pretty good job putting together a capable team in LA. Our second down for the MLB offseason is the New York Mets signing of Brandon Nimmo. The Mets brought Nimmo back on a 5-year, $162 million contract. Now, don't get me wrong. I like Nimmo as a player. He's a very much improved defensive player. He hits the ball very well. He gets on base a lot. He can drive in some runs. He's a very good 1-2 hitter in that lineup. I think it's a very, very good player, and a 5-year contract is not a terrible thing. For me, we're talking money. Uncle Stevie Cohen is going to blow through money like it's just going out of style. It's absolutely incredible what the Mets are doing and spending. However, or more than $20 million a year for a player who's only twice played over 100 games and really no more than 140, I think Brandon Nimmo had to do a little bit more to get this type of contract. He hit his best season going into free agency. He's cashed in clearly, but I just don't, this doesn't make sense to me for the Mets. It's too much money for a player who's not likely to play 100 games. Far too often he's getting hurt. If Nimmo gets hurt at all, if you lose three years of this 5-year deal because of injury, then this contract wasn't worth it. You need at least 4 years on this contract where Nimmo plays over 100 games, or it's quite simply not worth it. So, as much as I like the player, he hasn't proven himself to be healthy enough. If he'd proved himself with one more year of back-to-back seasons of over 100 games, then we can talk this type of contract. But until that happens, it's not worth the money. It's an overpay by the Mets. And yes, I understand. They can overpay all they want. They're going to pay all this luxury tax money. I get all that. That's a far separate video than this one. But for this contract, it does not make sense to me. So for this, bring Nimmo back. I think there were other ways you can make this work. I think they outbid themselves really in the end. So the Mets, for that reason, get a down on the Brandon Nimmo contract. Our final up the MLB offseason is a very big one and a team that I don't normally talk very highly of. It's the Milwaukee Brewers for what they did in bringing in William Contreras as part of the deal that sent Sean Murphy from Oakland to Atlanta. The Brewers kind of snuck in and stole their catcher for the future. They've got 5 years of control for William Contreras, and they didn't really give up much. Asturi Ruiz is a prospect going to the A's. He's a nice player, but unless he hits the ball better, he's going to end up as a fourth outfielder type who's a very good defensively with a lot of speed. He's not William Contreras, and that's about all the Brewers gave up. And they got a couple of bullpen pieces as well in this deal. This deal just makes complete sense for the Brewers. Hard to believe they stole William Contreras from the Braves. I don't know what the Oakland was thinking. Why they didn't want Contreras is beyond me. I know they have Shea Langmuir, but you could have flipped one of those guys for something else and got a lot more value out of this deal. Does not make any sense. I'm very, very impressed with what the Brewers are doing here. Contreras is going to fit very well. He may not be the best catcher yet, but give him some time to develop as a defensive catcher. I think you can pair him with a veteran catcher behind the plate. Give him a lot of reps there. Give him some games at his DH as well. His bat is going to be what carries him. He's a very good player that way, and I expect a lot of power from William Contreras, especially Milwaukee, which is a pretty good hitter's ballpark. You throw in the fact they also got Jesse Winker for Colton Wong. I didn't think they'd get that much for Colton Wong, but getting Winker back in the NL Central where he has thrived with the Reds makes a lot of sense. I know there was a lot of animosity there in Seattle, but I think that Winker could fit really well in Milwaukee and really give them what they need. They've got plenty of power. They can continue to supply that power. Their offense was actually above average last year, which is not normal for a Brewers team. I think they get more health out of Brandon Woodruff, Freddie Peralta. There's a lot to like here with the Brewers. They can definitely challenge for the division, and I think William Contreras and Jesse Winker can be a big part of that. So for me, the Brewers get an up for their offseason moves here. Our final down for these MLB offseason moves is going to be the 11-year, $280 million contract that the San Diego Padres handed out to Xander Bogaerts. I love Xander Bogaerts as a player. Let me state that right now. But if the Padres don't win in the next 3, 4 years, there is going to be a lot of issues in San Diego. Are they going to be able to re-sign Juan Soto given this contract they've handed out to Bogaerts? Are they going to be able to re-sign Manny Machado given they've given this contract out to Bogaerts and Machado can opt out at the end of next season? There's a lot of questions here. What do you do with Fernando Tatis Jr.? Does he play second? Does he play the outfield? How is that going to fit and play in San Diego when you've taken your star? And yes, I understand there's issues with Tatis, but you're going to turn your star into an outfielder now rather than his preferred shortstop position. This is pushing a lot of buttons in San Diego, and I'm not sure if this is going to work out, especially in the long term. Can you imagine Bogaerts as a 36, 37, 38-year-old shortstop playing in the NL West with the Padres? I really don't think this is going to make sense, especially at the end of this contract. I know they're paying for the now, but you have to play this player until he's 40 years old. And shortstops over 35 do not age well and do not work out very well. And Bogaerts is not the type of defender you can move to a lot of other positions. Maybe you can get him to second base. Maybe he becomes a bit of a first baseman, but I'm not sure how that works out. I do not like this contract. Far too long. The money, it is what it is, but it's just the length of the contract here. And given that Juan Soto's that much closer to free agency, that Manny Machado can opt back into free agency next year, I don't know where all the pieces are going to fit in San Diego. And if they don't win now, they're going to be a lot of trouble. Their pitching, I don't think is going to be good enough right now, especially their starting pitching. Yes, they got Darvish, Snell, and Musgrove, but they don't have a lot of that back end. If they're going to require Seth Lugo to be a starter, and a consistent starter at that, this is not going to work out very well for the Padres. Do not like the contract. Love the player, not the contract. So it's a down for the Padres for me. Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of another video here on 3 Up, 3 Down. I know you guys love your 3 Ups and 3 Downs. I hope you enjoyed this one. And if you're into more of this type of content, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. I love having you here. And comment down below. What contracts do you like, not like? What trades did you like, not like? I respond to all the comments. Make sure you comment down below. We can talk some baseball talk. Until next time, take care, everyone.